Hey, it's the podcast guy.
Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast.
And there it is! Sutton United of the GM Vauxhall Conference have put out First Division Coventry City, winners of the FA Cup themselves less than 2 years ago. And what a moment to enjoy for the fans of this Surrey side. They've had their moments before, but never one like this. But the whistle goes down. Delight for Sutton United. Sutton United, the National League, are through to the last 16 of the FA Cup. No longer English football's perennial non-league club. A 123-year crescendo reaches a new peak for Sutton United, who are promoted to the Football League for the first time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Sutton United Talk Time on podcast. It's the Sutton Podcast in association with Lucky Star Gin. I'm your host Mike. I've taken my medication and everything is looking wonderful in the world of Mike. On today's panel, we've got Mark Bravery. Hello Mark, how are you?
I'm pretty good, thanks.
Excellent. We were due to have Gabriel, but he is involved in a tennis tournament in Bucharest. I can't remember which one.
Bucharest.
He has got through to the next round, so he's playing right now. So he felt it wasn't possible to do the podcast and play a tennis tournament to the best of his abilities. We are going to very quickly cover the Newport defeat and look forward very, very quickly to a trip to Wycombe in our first ever League Cup second round fixture. Engagement is important. Please do like, share, comment, etc. on all the social media posts. Let us know your thoughts. We're at Sutton Podcast and everything. All the likes, shares and everything are really helpful. It helps all the algorithms. So all those Wimbledon fans who are getting antsy with me over the week haven't realised that they've helped get my podcast in front of more eyes. So thanks, guys. Right, we're going to dive in. Mark, it was end of last season. I think it was late April we had you on last. Can't remember which match it was, but it was a defeat, I'm pretty sure. And
most of them were in April.
Yeah, absolutely. How have you been? How's your summer been?
Yeah, pretty good. I've had a couple of trips, one to Bologna, Italy, and another to the Shetland Isles, which was a wildlife trip. Both very good in their different ways.
Excellent. Lack of football was obviously a bonus. But just a bit club news. I'm scraping around for my positives. The ladies lost today 8-0, which is a bit of an oof moment. Again, fairly new squad, so it's always going to be difficult. Killian has finally off to Blackpool, which is kind of like the longest running saga in the history of Sutton transfers, I think. And as of yesterday, there are still some spots for the supporters coach for Wycombe. The details are on the forum of all the ways to get in touch with them. So yeah, if you're looking to make a last minute decision, just jump on the sports coach. Bit of positive news, I say I'm scratching, but Johnny's book is going to be out and available in the fan zone next week, where he can sign or not sign, depending on your preference. The book's from 2:00 in the fan zone next week, so do please support that really interesting book on mental health and its sort of link with football, which I think is going to have a lot resonate with a lot of people, not just Sutton supporters. Okay, so we knew there was someone missing. We knew it was a sort of a regular player. Did you know it was going to be Eastie? I thought it wasn't going to be because I saw a video of him on the coach, but I'm now wondering if Harry Buteman put that video out with every intention of confusing people. But what were your thoughts ahead of kickoff?
I didn't know it was Eastie, but it wasn't a great surprise when he was missing from the squad, because he went off late in the previous game and at a time when you wouldn't expect him to go off. So it looked as if he picked up a knock or a sprain or something. So when I saw he wasn't in the side, and I suspect other fans felt the same, because it wasn't, we half expected this. As far as I'm aware, it was otherwise the same starting lineup as against Wimbledon. Craig Clay came in for Eastie, and I thought was probably our best player, actually. He's a more than adequate deputy. Some might even argue he's a better player than Eastie because he picks up fewer yellow cards. But yeah, he's certainly a very able midfield experienced player, and I had no qualms when I saw him in the starting 11.
Yeah. I'm thinking it's just as well we stopped going out live, otherwise I'd feel the hate messages coming through straight away. So we are we're struggling at the moment, and first half though they had some chances, but it wasn't much. It didn't seem like the trouble. There was a double save from Jack, but it didn't seem like they were troubling us too much. What were your thoughts of the first half?
I thought it was a pretty even game. I don't think either side looked like world beaters, but I don't think either side played particularly badly either. Defences, as you say, were largely on top. There was that great double save from Jack. The first, I think, was the better of the two, but he did well to sort of get onto the ball with a follow up. I think they had one shot from distance that sailed over the bar. Apart from that, there wasn't much in the way of goal attempts in the first half, and I think Matt would have been pretty pleased to be 0-0 at half time.
Yeah, I mean, up until sort of 70 minutes with our goal from Amari, it seemed almost the perfect away performance. We'd kind of soaked up the pressure a little bit, and we'd scored. And so it's kind of seemed like, oh, do you know what? We got this. If we can come away with a win, fantastic. If we draw, great. But it seemed like almost the perfect away performance, as I just said. I don't know why I repeated it. But what were your thoughts kind of at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I thought up until the point that Amari scored, it'd been very even as going into the second half. So, I thought we were perhaps, a shade fortunate to be ahead, but sometimes you've got to take those. Had the goal been scored, 30 minutes later in the game, I think we probably would have held on for the 3 points, but it was something like 53 minutes, I think. So Newport had quite a lot of time to get back into the game. And, we did hold them until the 70th minute. Then there was that unfortunate own goal, which turned the game in their favour, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had something that we don't seem to have at this moment, whether that's the fitness coming into the team late and not having a full pre-season, but they had an impact substitute. Omar Bogle came on and literally changed everything. He had a big impact. And I think Joe did score an own goal, but trying to, obviously it's funny angles, but trying to see the replay, I'm like, that was heading straight to Bogle anyway. So potentially would have scored anyway, even if Joe hadn't put his head in the way.
Yeah. Well, but we've got history of Bogle because, of course, he was a sub that came on at the first game of last season. So he was already on, that's right. But just after Woodliff went off with that injury that kept him out for half the season, Bogle scored almost immediately after. I think Kobe Rowe came on for Ben. So I think the defence hadn't quite reorganised sufficiently to cope with the change, and Bogle had I think it was a fairly free header. So possibly that was at the back of some of the players' minds when he came on as a sub in yesterday's game, and that perhaps unsettled the defence a little bit. That may have been part of the explanation as to why we conceded when we did.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seemed like a fairly comfortable afternoon for Omar Shomi. And then suddenly, Omar Bogle come on, and it was a totally different thing. Someone running him a bit ragged there. Yeah. But we went crosses for some reason. The size of our defence, crosses was a particularly bad point for us. We seemed to be vulnerable to these second goals quite quickly after the first goal. What do you think is in that? Do you think?
It's hard to fathom what's going on here. I mean, it was against Gillingham we conceded early in the first 10-15 minutes and couldn't break them down. They held on for a 1-0 win. But in the other three recent defeats, we've held the opposition for over an hour, and two of those we've actually taken the lead, and then we've conceded after the hour mark, and then conceded again. It was 2 at Barrow, and it was 3 against Wimbledon and against Newport. So there does seem to be some sort of problem with seeing out games, which is the opposite problem we had in the middle of last season. Obviously, early last season, we were conceding a lot of very late goals after the 85th minute. Then we seem to have sorted that out middle of the season, but we were even scoring late goals. And Matt was talking about the players' fitness and their ability to grind down opponents, see out the 90 minutes, not concede, maybe score late. And now we seem to have reverted to being vulnerable in the latter stages of games. Now, it may be something to do with pre-season preparation not quite being ideal, but we just got to hope that Matt can diagnose the problem and resolve it pretty quickly. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble.
I mean, we went 2-1 down. We made 4 subs, which is really unlike Matt. But unfortunately, one of those subs looked quite rusty. Sam Hart seemed to look, again, not blaming anyone because it's a team game, but he did seem to have a chance to clear it just before they scored at 3-1. And then they broke away, could have made it 4-1. And again, Sam had not quite controlled the ball. Do you reckon that's just rust or?
Yeah, he's not played a great deal, has he, since last season? So maybe he's a bit rusty. I think with Sam, I've always felt he's actually better going forward than defending. I think he has played as a winger in one of our fairly recent games, and he looked pretty good as a winger. I feel more comfortable with Rob Milson in that left back position. But Rob's obviously getting towards the end of his career now. He can't do 90 minutes as often as he used to. I did get the impression with all those substitutes, and something similar happened against Wimbledon. It was almost like an act of desperation. We're losing the game. We'll just throw all these other players in, just hope randomly something happens to turn the game back our way. And of course, it didn't in either game.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to do this as a separate section with points of views, but it's actually a lot kind of is relating to the game, obviously. So I'm going to jump into there and see if there's any kind of things there. We've mentioned, Rob, there's been a bit of talk really about do we need a younger left back? Is Sam up to the standard, and do we need someone to cover for Rob or even replace Rob? Any sort of thoughts there? I mean, I know you've kind of just said that about Rob's age bit a little bit.
I think we could probably do with a bit more cover in that position. But I mean, you could probably say the same at other positions as well. It does appear to be a bit of a lack of strength and depth at left back. Right back, obviously, you've got Ryan Jackson, who we've not seen much of because he picked up a knock in pre-season, so we've not seen a great deal of him. But he comes with a good reputation. When he has come on, he's looked good. And I think he will be giving Joe Hart some competition for that right back berth. But I think there's a bit more concern about the left back position.
Yeah. We kind of again just covered a game management. Do we need to just, if we concede that goal, just go really pub team and lump it out? You can't score from row Z or out of the stadium, so just clear the lines.
I think there is some sort of malaise that's been affecting the defence since the tail end of last season. I think the key defenders that we've got, Goodliff, Milson, Kizzy, John, are not playing at quite the level that they were sort of mid-season last season. I kind of think that last-minute goal we conceded at Walsall, although that wasn't any of the defenders' fault, arguably it was down to Jack Rose not holding the ball. But I think that really shook the team up. We've not been quite the same since then. We've not kept a clean sheet since then in any game, certainly any competitive game. I think there's a bit of confidence that needs to be rebuilt there. That's tricky. That's obviously down to Matt and Jason. But I think the players need to be reminded how well they were playing sort of January, February last season when we were playing very well, had a long run of games without defeat, and just try and recapture that form. But quite how you do that, I don't know. It's one of those tricky problems that managers face sometimes, where they can see there's a problem, but that it's quite hard to diagnose it and quite hard to remedy it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to look at any of our players and what we know about them and say there's a problem mentally holding on to Leeds. They're not mentally strong. They're not fit enough. It's really difficult to, as you say, just try and work out what exactly is going wrong. I mean, it's one win from 16. Lots of conversation about the run of form from last year rolling into this year. But we have recruited heavily. Obviously, Matt and team know there was an issue. So we've recruited, I think, half the squad now, or maybe even slightly more now, has kind of gone and new players come in. So although it's easy to say, oh, well, it's 1 in 16, is that really fair? Should we not be saying, well, there's the line. We've got a new squad now. It's 1 in 4, 5.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, the defence hasn't changed a great deal since last season. I think most of the changes have been further forward. I think sometimes if a team finishes a season quite poorly, that poor form can carry on into the next season, even if there are quite a few changes in the squad. We saw it with Rochdale. I mean, they finished the season before last very poorly. They kept the manager. He went early the following season, but they started that season really poorly, even though they've made some changes to the squad in the closed season, and they struggled all season and ended up getting relegated. So there does seem to be something that can linger on from one season to the next, even though a lot of the players have changed. Some have gone and new ones have come in. But again, it's quite hard to explain. It's just one of these curious phenomena that you sometimes see in football.
Yeah. I mean, there was one comment which I had to kind of go, no, I need you to defend yourself here, because should have used justify your comment rather than defend it. But it was really feel that our recruitment has been shocking. 1 league win since March, and the buck stops with Matt. Time for a change.
I did see that. Yeah,
it was like, whoa, hang on a minute. I mean, we're not going to back a manager this heavily in the summer and then say, right, off you go. We just can't. We wouldn't do that anyway. We can't afford to do that because the new manager's going to want new players. But the recruitment side, I mean, how do you feel about that statement, the recruitment being shocking?
Well, on paper, I think the recruitment's been good. I think, Harry Smith is a good signing. Ryan Jackson's a good signing. Craig Clay's a good signing. There are others I could mention. I think on paper, actually, the squad looks a bit better than last season. But, sometimes you need to give new players time to, bed themselves into the side. And that can sometimes take longer than you would hope or expect. So I don't think there's any great criticism about recruitment at all. I certainly think it's ridiculous to talk about changing a manager at this stage, and it's not the Sutton way anyway. We don't ditch a manager at the first sign of trouble, as some clubs do. Matt had that difficult first autumn during his debut season as manager, and some fans were calling for his head, and the club, rightly as it turned out, stuck with him, and he turned things round, and results improved, from about November onwards. And I'm sure that's going through a lot of fans' heads now. He's going through a sticky patch. Mm-hmm. But, I think if he feels the club's behind him, most of the fans are behind him, that will help him. That will help him to resolve the problem.
Yeah. Well, he did look a bit shell-shocked in the interview with Tony.
Yeah, he did.
He was very surprisingly not... He wasn't quite short with Tony, but you could just tell I'd rather not be doing this.
He didn't know that question about Killian, did he?
No.
He's obviously quite annoyed about what happened there.
Yeah.
Not the only player he's annoyed with, I think, but no. I think Tony was possibly advised to ask about Killian. Matt just said, he's gone. He's not our player. It's history. Move on.
But again, I feel for Tony's point of view, because obviously people are saying he's not asking the right questions, and there's certain questions that Matt will answer with about the wind and the retired. And it's like, well, actually, Wimbledon have also played this many games in the same length of time. So it's the same kind of thing. So I get where Tony doesn't want to ask questions to irritate people because they just won't want to do the interviews anymore, and then you won't have them.
Sure.
So, but I searched for the positives, and young Dan, thank you, bless you, Dan, came out with some positives. We defended well in the first half against the wind, apart from the one double save from Jack. The link-up play was really good between Aidan, Omari and Josh, and we created a good amount of chances, but we didn't do anything with them. He didn't mention this, but I think in the stats, they had 2 shots on target, which is really interesting because Jack made a double save at least. So I'm like, well, how's that not count as a shot on target? But the stats I saw straight away, I don't know if they changed since.
I've got the league paper here, and it says Newport had 5 shots on target.
Okay, they've changed
We
that.
had 4, apparently, which surprises me slightly. But
the one I saw yesterday said 2, and I was like,
it's always
right.
difficult to count these. You know, what counts as a shot on target? People will have different stats for that.
Yeah, and he agrees with you. Clay looks excellent alongside Harry. And on that, I don't know, I doubt he's listening, but condolences to Harry because I think his nan passed away.
Okay.
But I mean, let's be honest. The Barrow game's unlucky because had Smith not done that stupid thing, which was the first red card of his career, we probably would have held on. Obviously, you can't tell, but we would have got something there. Against Gillingham, they weren't that great. I know some Gillingham fans took umbrage against that. And actually, Scott Cashgett should have scored an equaliser, which was called for offside. I can see why it was called for offside, but I'm not a professional linesman. So Wimbledon was a bad game. And yesterday, Ed from Newport, the Exiles, said actually it was a really even game up until that last few minutes. It was a really even game. So we could be sitting in a different position altogether. So luck does play into this. But hopefully it'll start swinging in our way again. But I did ask you to pick something for moment of the match. I've got one which I've shamelessly stolen from someone else because obviously I wasn't there. But you can pick any moment from the match, on the pitch, off the pitch, whatever you feel like.
Well, the obvious one is Amari Patrick's goal. He's obviously another good signing that Matt made in the summer. I mean, it wasn't a very easy chance. I think Liango helped to make it. He headed into the box. I'm not sure whether the keeper stopped it or not, but the ball rolled back to Amari, who had to shoot through a crowd of players, but he got the accuracy right, and that put us 1-0 up. And that was up at that point, very even game, but that gave us the edge at that point. And we were very pleased to see that goal go in.
Perfect. Well, obviously I wasn't there, so I'm stealing this from Ryan, who said that he loved seeing Harry Smith, who travelled with the fan. Well, he travelled up, I don't know, with the fans, and he was in with the fans, supporting the team. He did also have a little dig saying it's very different to one ex-player who didn't go to his own club's match and came to sit with some rival fans and celebrate with them at one of our games, and probably work out who that was. So I'll put them 2 out for a vote, and we'll see which one people pick in for moment of the match. But as I said at the start, I mean, we did 20 minutes, so that's not bad talking about a game we didn't want to talk about. But we are going to look
talking points.
Yeah, we're going to look forward, and people watching on YouTube may have seen this, but Dan has been absolutely furiously switching devices and trying to join. No, it's brilliant. I was like, oh no, he can't do it. I thought he was going to give up. Hello, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Thanks for stepping in last minute for us. It's very, very kind of you. So there's a couple of questions. First thing I want to ask, though, is 1996 disco champion? What's that?
Twin Sands. That's me down in Cornwall as a fresh-faced 7-year-old winning the disco dancing champion. So that's probably the best accolade of my life, and will remain up on my Twitter bio for all time.
Peak Dan.
Absolutely.
But in all sensible, tell us a little bit about yourself. How long you've been supporting Wickham? What kind of got you started with it?
Yeah, so basically, Wickham, I think, pretty much like Sutton, is very much a community-based club. I've been going since '97 when I was young, and I've been going pretty much every season since where I can. So we've really grown over time. Obviously, we were non-league, wasn't there, but the last game obviously we played against you guys was the 4-1 win in the trophy semi-final. So it'll be interesting to see how things have gone since then. But no, I'm actually myself. I'm part of the Heroes of HB12 podcast, which is very similar to this, really. So we discuss the the last few games, go forward to the next few games, and obviously we've actually previewed this one last week. So yes, so yeah, it should be good. But no, it's we're looking forward to it. It's nice to have a bit of a cup run. We either usually fail at the first hurdle with the Carabao Cup, or we actually tend to go quite far. So
you never know. Well, this is 3 attempts, and we've never got past the first round, so we're kind of delighted.
Wow. I mean, you won on penalties, didn't you? Against Cambridge, which Cambridge are flying this season. So to get a result against them, even to get a draw against them, is good going. So,
in fairness, and I'm not being big-headed, we gave them both their goals. One was a real gift, and there was a penalty, which we're not 100% sure. But
fair enough.
But what's your match day traditions or superstitions or weirdness? Everyone's got one.
Yeah, do you know what? It's one of those where, beforehand it used to be you go to the pub and usual kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've been to Wickham when obviously back in '93, but it's at the back end of an industrial estate, so there's not too much that we can actually kind of do before the game, apart from the local pub or maybe the Via, which is now known as the Caledonian. Nothing too exciting, but no, since I've been taking my kids, unfortunately, it's usual getting fleeced at the local burger bars for £20 a burger and then into the ground. So it's not too bad. Yeah, it's good. Varies. Depends on where we go.
I worked out another one of mine. I've got just like loads. And I was walking down a road towards the ground and I went to cross the road and I went, oh no, I can't cross it yet until I get to that lamp. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? It's like, no, stop it. You're turning into a weirdo.
You do turn superstitions in football absolutely unbelievable. Like my partner will, she likes the haunted stuff, like paranormal things, and I'm like, oh, you can't believe in ghosts or whatever. But then when I see 2 magpies on a Saturday, I am saluting them furiously to make sure that we get results. So yeah, always the way.
It's just I keep adding more to them, and it's like, oh, this has got to stop. So what's your favourite memory? What's your, when someone says, well, why do you support Wickham? What's your kind of go-to moment?
We've had so many, which I think is unusual for a lower league club. I was there in 2001. I don't know if anyone else will remember it. It's a core memory for us. But when a guy we signed off Teletext scored at Filbert Street to take us into the FA Cup semi-final, it was unbelievable. I was just in the stand along the side. And you can't believe it, but I've still got it burned into my memory to this day. Even watching Liverpool in the semi-final was amazing. And then, we've been in the Carabao semi-final against Chelsea over 2 legs. And you've even got the oddities of watching a playoff final on TV because of COVID to get us into the Championship. It's, we've had so many great memories over the years, but I can't really put my finger on one, really.
Perfect. I didn't. Do you know what? I didn't actually remember I still don't know the player's name, but I remember the teletext sign.
Roy Essendon.
Yes.
Yeah. He played against us actually sometime after that. I think it may have been Bishop Stortford.
It was Bishop Stortford. Yeah, he went down to Bishop Stortford in his later career, and that was when you were in the Conference South. Yeah, remember that.
Well, it might be Roy, it might not be, but is there a player from your history that you wish you could pick out and say, right, you're in the first team today?
Yes, and he played against you as well. It'd be Dave Carroll, his name was. He was midfielder, also known as Jesus. But he was absolutely unbelievable. Dynamic midfielder. Literally every game he gave 100%. And you know what? That's what you want as a club, isn't it? You want that midfielder that just makes things work. So he was that person. He retired, I think, probably early 2000s. So 20-odd years ago, but we still lament him to this day.
A little bit of me was hoping you said Scotty's cash kit. To be honest,
Do you know, we love Scott.
I was just hoping.
Everyone at Wickham absolutely loves Scott Cashcare, because I don't know if you know the story about how he came to us, but he was out of favour at Leyton Orient, and that's when they had that crazy Italian chairman who kept going a bit crazy with all the players and stuff, and he kind of got as a backup there, and he came to us out of favour, which is generally how people come across Wickham, to be honest. They're generally out of favour at the club, falling out of love with football. They come to us and seem to regain their form. But I mean, he's our first ever championship goal scorer. He went on a run when we were in League Two of scoring for 11 consecutive games or something like that. We absolutely love the lad, and obviously when he was with us, he was partnering with in Fenway, so it was little and large up front, leading the line. It was wonderful. But no, obviously we followed him since, and him going to Gillingham last season, where I think he was a bit unfortunate with injuries. I really hope he comes into form with you this season, but you seem to have signed a lot of strikers so far, so it'll be interesting to see where he fits in.
He seems to be in the shirt at the moment, and obviously we've got Harry Smith, who's a big one. And he's coming back, or should be coming back from suspension. Whether Matt's going to hold a grudge or not, I don't know, but he should be coming back from suspension with Scott. He is quick. I mean,
very quick. Yeah,
there was a goal. It was the Notts County game, wasn't it, Mark? Where the ball was just a fairly lazy back pass, but the keeper should have easily got it.
Yeah.
Next thing, Scott was having a cup of tea, and then suddenly just haired off, and you're like, "Where's he come from?"
He's brilliant, and get behind him, because he feeds off the crowd. He really does. And I think if you can really kind of get behind him and see what he's trying to do, he's a hard worker. He always has been. He'll do good for you. I mean, he did. To be fair, he did well for Gillingham last season. And it's just, I think he was really unfortunate with his injuries. Yeah. But you've also got Damani Mellor of ours as well, who that would be an interesting to see how he develops. I don't think he kind of kicked off when he was at Rochdale last season. Obviously, I think they were struggling, and I think, obviously he didn't seem to get the supply that he maybe needed. But in pre-season, he's banged in a couple of goals and things like that, and we thought, he might be in and around the first team. Obviously, he won't be playing against us on Tuesday, because we played him in the first game as a substitute. But, he just needs time and he needs goals, and I'm sure he'll be fine. But, he might be a good impact sub.
Yeah, well, I got... George from the Wickham Way.
Yes.
He did tell me there's a song, because Scott was on a BBC interview and he said there was a song that you guys used to sing for him that he used to love, and I'm like, right, I need to find this out. And George, I think he had a drink or two to build up the courage, and he sent it to me, and literally about 30 seconds after he'd sent his singing through, I was like, I've just found it on YouTube. He was like, thank God for that.
George is excellent.
Yeah, no, he's a great guy. He's full of apologies, because he was going to do this for me, but he's on holiday and he found something else to do. And I'm like, it's fine, honestly. It's not the end of the world. So the season so far for you, how's it been? What's been the highs and lows so far?
It's been one of transition. I mean, obviously, we keep touching on it, and I think, a lot of our fans that have come over the last few years have only seen success, really, because we've had up to League One and up to Championship, and an average season, and then we had a playoff final against Sunderland, so they've only really known success. But obviously that was on the back of Gareth Ainsworth being there for 10 years. He's now obviously gone to QPR, and we brought Matt Bloomfield in, kept that culture consistent, but Matt's got his own style, and obviously I don't know if you played against him last season when he was manager at Colchester, but he's quite forward thinking in terms of his tactics and versatility and what have you. So we started off the season on back-to-back 3-0 losses in the league, which I think everyone started to panic a bit, because he brought in his own players. He brought in a mix of youth from the Premier League and Championship, and a few new players as well on permanent. So, the optimism was at an all-time high at the start of the season, quickly quelled by 2 goals within 6 minutes against Exeter at the start of the season. But we seem to have started to bed in, and it's a period of transition, I guess. We seem to have started bedded in now. We've got 7 points from 9, so everyone's a bit more hopeful. But it'll be interesting to see how we line up on Tuesday, because I think Matt does want a cup run. He lined up strong against MK Dons, and to be fair, MK didn't really give us much of a challenge. So we'll see how we go. but I'm hoping for a strong lineup. Not to say that I've come on here, but I'm hoping that we'll put out quite a strong lineup. So,
Well, my next question, I'll start with Mark for this one. You were there back in '93. I think it was at their place we did brilliantly, and it was at our place we didn't do so brilliantly. But how does Sutton win the game? What do we need to do and change to win this game, Mark?
That's quite a tough one. I think we're going to need a lot of luck, to be honest. I suspect Matt will rotate the squad. I think he'll see the Forest Green game on next Saturday as more important because we really desperately need a win in the league. And a lot of those players have played, almost 90 minutes regularly this season, Saturday, Tuesday. So I suspect that he will rest players like Rob Milson, maybe Joe Kizzy, and maybe one or two others. So I suspect it will be not quite the strongest lineup that Matt could put out for this game. So as I said, I think to win it, we're either going to have some, a lot of luck or some moments of inspiration from one or two of the players who haven't featured very much this season.
Okay, Dan, that's an odd question to ask you, but same thing. How does Sutton win the game? What needs to go wrong from your point of view?
Well, do you know what? On the back of yesterday's win against Bristol Rovers, we've had a couple of injuries. Dale Taylor from Nottingham Forest, who was up front, he's off. He's done something to his calf, I think. And Tafazoli, defender, who is made of paper, unfortunately, and likes to crumble at the opportunity. So we're trying three at the back at the moment. So we've probably got a bit of rotation at the back. So we're still bedding into three at the back. I think if you can exploit the wings a bit, then you might have a chance. But it depends who we line up with. To be honest, it is entirely dependent on that.
Mm-hmm. One thing that really surprised me about the League Cup, because obviously never really paid any attention to it over the years, is the prize money is awful. So the Papa John's, you get like 10 grand a point or something. It's like, I can't remember what it was, but it was low 20s to get through to the next round. So what are the implications on the season for this match? I mean, Dan, I'll start with you. Does it make any difference, really? I know you said the manager would like a cup run, but is it the be-all, end-all that you're going to potentially, if you lose to Sutton or if you beat Sutton, does it mean anything?
I don't think it matters so much. I mean, I think the great source of frustration for our fans, to be honest, is they're closed off the main stand. So I don't think they would anticipate a high attendance from it. So, I mean, in terms of revenue, I don't think it's a money spinner. I think the only thing that you can kind of hope for at this point is next round you get a big game away, a Premiership club or something like that, and that's a great experience. I mean, we had it 2 years ago where we got to play Man City at the Etihad, and that was, even though we lost 6-1, it was an amazing experience just to go there, and we scored the first goal as well. So that was the only thing that everyone was kind of thinking of at the end of the day. Money, it's not great, is it? It's really poor, and it probably explains why a lot of the Premier League clubs play their reserve teams when they do it. They really focus on the FA Cup or getting into Europe. So it's probably just pushing for that big game next game.
Big time, yeah. Mark, same to you. What kind of implications are? I mean, the prize money, it was mad. I think winning this gave us about, we haven't won it, but would give us about 20 or 30 grand more than runners up in the Papa John's.
Yeah, it's not a great incentive, is it? And of course, we're not going to win it. I think Matt would like a cup run, but I think his priority now is got to be the league. I think if he started better in the league, I think he'd be going for it more in the Carabao. But with the recent run of poor results in the league, I think he probably won't say this explicitly, but I suspect he's been pushed down his list of priorities. And I expect a lot of fans feel the same as well.
Fairly similar. So, Dan, there has been a new scheme announced, and you have been chosen to pop into that changing room 30 seconds before the players go out onto the pitch. What would be your message to your team, and what's your prediction for the match?
Oh, on the spot there.
Yeah.
Do you know what? For me, I think it's a continuation of how we were on Saturday or yesterday. We really started to mix well. We started to see kind of exactly what Matt was doing, so I think it's a continuation of that. They fought for it because we were under the cosh for the last, well, I'd say 10 minutes, but they had 10 minutes added on, so last 20 minutes of the game. But they got one back, and then it was last-ditch defending all the way. More of that fight, I think. You know, I personally now want us to go on a decent run of form, including the cup. So, you know, we really need to push on with that. So that's exactly what I would say. Personally, I think this is going to be a tough one. I don't think it's going to be as I know you've kind of lost 3-0, 3-1 here and there, but I mean, you've shown what you can do in the first game against Notts County, who would have been absolutely up for it. So, you know, we don't really know what to expect. I think, you know, I'd be happy with just a 1-0 or a 2-1 or something like that. Just a narrow victory, but that's what I'm going for.
Lovely. Mark, what would be your message to the players and a prediction?
I think the message would be, you know, there's not a great deal of pressure on them in this particular match, so just go out and, you know, express yourselves. You know, just don't feel tense. Just go out and play. Prediction: I'm afraid I'm going to go for a 3-1 to Wickham.
3-1. Okay.
Another 3-1. Yeah. I don't often predict defeat for Sutton, but I think this particular occasion I will.
Yeah. Well, I was completely stumped, and I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. I thought, I know what I'll do is I'll look at my little smart meter and I'll just choose whatever the last two figures are. I didn't really think that through because it says 66, so I'm fairly sure it's not going to be a 6-all draw. But
Probably not.
I will go for 1-1 and go to penalties, and everyone scored their penalties and it goes to sudden death, but I don't need to get that detail. I'm going to go to 1-1 at the end of 90 or 100 or 200 minutes, whatever it is, and then I think it's straight to penalties, and then everyone has to get home. So, yeah, thank you very much, chaps. Thank you for your time. Mark, thanks for holding the fort and giving all your thoughts.
No worries.
Dan, thank you for stepping in and persevering. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. As always, we appreciate your ear attention. It will definitely take off. It's definitely funny. Follow us, like, share at Sutton Podcast on all the social medias. Don't forget to like, subscribe, etc. on YouTube and all your podcast channels or platforms even. Until next time, thank you to our sponsors. Thanks again to the panel. Thanks to the listeners. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We're back on Wednesday with Neil, and a debutant, Marnes, is coming on. So get the questions sent in. Take care, and we will catch up soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. United! United! United!